Hello, Seth. First and foremost, I want to start by thanking you for your work and applaud the principles of assume nothing, question everything, challenge the opposition, and start thinking that you advocate for on your website, www.thinkingatheist.com. Your What Do You Want in a President video was my first exposure to your work, and on so many levels it was an amazingly thought-provoking and beautiful piece. I can only hope that it is effective in creating the dialogue that you advocate for. I truly believe that exploring the questions you articulated as well as the premises on which they are founded is, always has been, and always will be the most important task facing humanity. I thought long and hard on the questions you asked and the answers you gave. Why? Why do so many of us share this belief, have this cynicism about our political climate? How does politics work? And what does it mean to be a U.S. citizen? What does it mean to vote? I questioned the questions and the answers, all the while attempting to keep in mind Thomas Pynchon's quote from Gravity's Rainbow: "If they can't get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers." In asking how politics works, I had to first explore what politics is defined as. Politics, from the Greek politikos, of, for, or relating to citizens, as a term is generally applied to the art or science of running governmental or state affairs. Huh. Well, shucks, that didn't help much. What's a citizen? Citizenship denotes the link between a person and a state or an association of states. Gee, thanks for clearing that up. So what's a state? The most commonly used definition is Max Weber's, which describes the state as a compulsory political organization with a centralized government that maintains a monopoly of the legitimate use of force within a certain territory. Okay, then what's a government? Government consists of the legislators, administrators, and arbitrators in the administrative bureaucracy who control a state at a given time, and the system by which they are organized. Government is the means by which state policy is enforced, as well as the mechanism for determining the policy of the state. So what then does it mean to vote for a president, any other elected official, or a law? What are we actually doing when we vote? When we vote, we seek to elect a government official or pass a law that we believe will best represent our interests and the interests of our country as we see them. Or at least that's what we're taught to believe it means to vote. Since the state is a compulsory political organization with a centralized government that maintains a monopoly of the legitimate use of force within a certain territory, no matter how noble our intentions, voting is our attempt to use the state's monopoly of the legitimate use of force by our government to dictate to other human beings how they should live. Does this seem right to you? Does this sound like a moral activity to participate in? Like most children, I was taught it was wrong to hit others, to steal, to cheat. I learned the golden rule. One should treat others as one would like others to treat oneself. I learned that using force to get your way was wrong, that one should obey the golden rule and use reason and evidence to convince others, that if you could not convince them, it did not give you the right to force them, that force was only legitimate as a means of self-defense. The definition of the state indicates that its monopoly on the use of force is legitimate. What makes it legitimate? The Declaration of Independence indicates that the government derives its power from the consent of the governed, that all men are created equal, and that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are innate rights. How does that work exactly? How can we, the people, give to the state a monopoly on force when we ourselves do not have a right to force others? Government and state officials are made up of human beings and cannot possess rights that we ourselves do not have if they derive their powers from the people. No person or group of people can delegate powers they do not themselves possess. Government cannot protect rights by first violating them. Morality does not change from the personal to the societal level. It must be universal, or it is a false morality that others are using to control people whom desire to be good. The state is violence. The state and any government conceived to run it is an ex post facto justification for violence. Voting is doublespeak for violence. Once we stop using doublespeak and call things by their real names, we can finally be free of the evils of the state. There are only a few truly psychotic individuals that use our desire for good and fear of psychos to control us all. An argument often used to defend the state is something along the lines of, there will always be those willing to use violence to violate others' rights, so we need a state to protect us from violent people. I agree with the first part, and that is why I disagree with the second. The solution of incidents of violence in society is not to institutionalize it, at least not for those seeking to reduce violence. For those seeking to use violence, it is by far the greatest system ever created, and they really did need it to fleece people more completely. It was entirely too much work and so much less productive the old-fashioned way. I invite you to ask yourself the questions you raised again. Really explore them. I ask that you take that keen intellect and rational thinking that you applied so effectively to the childhood indoctrination and overwhelming wave of religious messages in our society which you received, and apply it universally. Apply it to the childhood indoctrination and overwhelming status messages in our society which you received and continue to receive, and unfortunately are propagating with videos like, "What do you want in a president?" Utilize the values you advocate on your website of assume nothing, question everything, challenge the opposition, and start thinking. And let me know if you come to a different conclusion, where I'm mistaken regarding voting and the state and the immorality of such acts and institutions. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Jonathan Mueller, www.bornagainanarchist.com.